The work comes before the belief. The more you do something, the more confident you get. Do it despite the doubt. Do it despite the fear. Do it afraid. Welcome to the Chasing Genius podcast. My name is Crystal and I am your host for the number one show for creatives in pursuit of their own creative geniuses. In today's conversation, we're going to talk a bit about self-belief. There's a quote that I recently heard called "The work comes before the belief," and that's what we're going to talk about today. Have you ever found yourself wanting to do something, maybe pursue a new goal, a new hobby, a new creative endeavor, but you found yourself filled with so much doubt that it prevented you from actually ever taking action? The truth is, a lot of us, we do feel that doubt when we are pursuing something new. Because when we're first starting out on something, we're so new, we're so fresh, we're so green. We often don't even know where to start. And sometimes that in and of itself can intimidate us, so much so that it stifles us to not do anything. And that fear and that intimidation prevents us from actually taking action. But what if I told you that there is a way to do this in reverse, where the work then inspires the belief in oneself? Because the truth is, the work actually comes before the belief. It's hard for you to believe in yourself if you have nothing to back it up. If I don't do the work, it's hard for me to say, hey, I can do this thing, because I've never done it before. But sometimes you just have to take one foot and put it in front of the other. A mountain is only climbed by taking the first step. So once you start taking the first step, and then you take the second step, and you focus on the progress that you're making, and you focus on becoming 1% better, in the end, the destination is then fulfilled and that goal is then achieved. So how exactly can you build that self-belief in oneself if you don't even know where to start? Well, the first step and the first tip that I can offer you is that learn to keep the promises you make yourself. It's always easier to keep promises and keep your word for other people, be it if you have to get to work at a certain time, if you promised someone that you was going to show up for them, because you have that external factor that is holding you accountable. But who are you when you're by yourself? My mom always said that integrity is who you are behind closed doors. And I really held that, close to my chest, because it's true. Who you are when no one is watching is who you truly are. If you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it, and then you consistently don't do it, it's harder for you to believe when you say you're going to do something. It could be as simple as, I'm going to write 3 pages every morning. It could be as simple as, I'm going to post every day. It could be as simple as, I'm going to go to the gym on these certain days, and you stick to it because you made a promise and a commitment to yourself. The words that you say to yourself are of very much importance. Put yourself on a pedestal. If I promise myself I'm going to do something, then I'm going to stick to that because I promised myself I was going to do that. And the more you learn to keep promises to yourself, the more you grow in confidence, because you say, hey, I know I could do this thing because I've seen myself do it before. I don't need someone watching me. I don't need someone telling me what to do in order to do that thing. And yes, it is nice to have like a community of people that hold you accountable, and you encourage each other and motivate each other and inspire each other. But none of that really matters if you can't do it for yourself. So first, learn how to keep the promises that you make yourself. The second thing is learn how to be consistent. Consistency. The number one word for the year for me, that's the word of the year for me, is be consistent. In being consistent, consistency looks different for everybody, right? I think sometimes we get tripped up because we think consistency only looks like if we do it every day. But the truth is, consistency can look like once a week. It could look like once a month. It could look like twice a week. It could look like however you want it to look like, as long as you are consistent with what you set out to do. And I have two creative examples for people who were consistent in their creative work and it turned out to be a big benefit for them. The first is Temi Coker. Temi Coker is a illustrator, designer, photographer, just an all-around creative being, one of my favorite people. And he had started doing these a poster a day back in like 2016, 2017, where he would design a poster literally every single day for 365 days, and he would just share whatever he made on Instagram. He would sometimes show a little bit about his process, and he's doing all of this while he was teaching in a school at the time. And I was really like inspired by that, because now if you see Temi Coker's work, my man's is making merch. My man's has worked with big clients. He's been on panels for Adobe. He's done a lot of creative things with design, but it was started from him being consistent with a poster a day. And through doing that, he actually developed his skill set as a designer. And if you look from 2016 to 2023, 2024, you see how refined his design style has become. You see how refined his vision and the way he portrays, he mixes photographs and abstract art and shapes and design to really create what we now know to be Temi Coker. Because if I see his work, I'm like, yo, without even having his name on it, I'm like, yo, I know that's Temi Coker's design right there. So I think when it comes to like our own personal work, it pays. You know, if you say you're gonna post once a week, do that and stick to it. And at bare minimum, stick to it for a year. Like, stick to anything for a year and see how far that gets you. A lot of times we quit, we give up, we do it once, we do it twice, maybe even 6 months, and then we just stop because we don't see the results. And most times it takes longer than we think it will take for us to grow our fan base, grow our audience, grow whatever following we want to do, to grow momentum in our creative work. It takes double the time. But I say give something a year of being consistent, 2 years of being consistent, and see how far that takes you in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. Another example I have of this is Idara Ekpoh, who during quarantine, she did self-portrait Sundays, which means every Sunday she shared a self-portrait of herself that she took. And what's really cool about that is that she used herself as the muse and created these cool ass sets in the comfort of her home and pushed her creativity to see how far, basically like redefining what a selfie that we know today is. And through that, she was able to, one, develop her skills in set design, photography, lighting, and grow her audience at the same time. So all these things combined between these two creatives just shows that as artists, it's very important for us to be consistent with our work and to be consistent with ourselves and to commit to whatever it is that we decide to do. And the last tip that I have is to do it despite the doubt. Doubt is normal, you know, ye of little faith. It's normal to have doubt because you haven't seen it yet. There's seeing is believing. That is so true. Like, it's really hard to believe in something if you haven't yet seen it. So when we feel doubt, it's like, it's normal. But the truth is that you gotta have a little faith in yourself. You know, what separates the greats from the crowd of people who never did anything is that they did it despite the doubt. They did it afraid. They did it despite how they were feeling because they believed in the vision and they wanted to accomplish the goal that they had. There's a tweet that I had seen from a while back from this designer, Clint419, who's a fashion designer based in London. And he said, I do it even if the biggest doubter is the person I see in the mirror. Oftentimes, the biggest doubter that we'll have in our circle of friends is ourselves. We have friends who support us. And even if, we have people who don't believe in the vision or who don't see the vision, it's not their responsibility to. It's our responsibility to show them that this can be achieved, that this can be bigger than what they think it is. But the only way we can get people outside of ourselves and ourselves to believe is to do the work. The work always comes before the belief. Because once you've done the work, once you've done the things, the actions, like the consequences of doing the actions is mountains being moved. Is, you don't even gotta, one thing about me is I don't just talk just to talk. You get me? Like, if I'm gonna do something, I just do it. I don't even have time to hear people tell me how to do something, tell me when to do something, tell me they don't believe in the vision or they do believe in the vision, because talking about a goal has the dopamine effect of actually doing that thing. So oftentimes just talking about what you're going to do makes you feel as if you've accomplished it, but the reality is you haven't accomplished it yet because you haven't done it yet, So once you start putting action behind the words that you speak, your words start to carry more weight. They start to carry more value because you have shown yourself and other people around you that I don't have time for just talking. I have time for action. I have time for doing. I have time for making things happen. Come hell, come high water, like whatever, I will make this thing happen because that's what's important to me. And the moment you change your mind to just start focusing on how I can get something done instead of focusing on, do I even believe in myself to get this done? Things start to change. For me, I had my own personal doubts with starting a podcast or even getting back on YouTube. And sorry, there's a lot, this is what it's like living in Philly, man. I feel like every time I sit to record these, is either a police car or an ambulance or somebody honking. So I'm really trying to be as patient as I can. But even me getting on YouTube and wanting to start a podcast and wanting to put myself out there as a content creator, as a photographer, and getting back into the flow of that, the reason why I had such a big gap in me posting from 2020 till now is myself. I doubted myself. I held myself back because I felt I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have the equipment. I didn't even have anything to say. What made me different? But the moment I was like, nah, you know what? I'm just going to start doing. I'm just going to start making the videos, putting it out there, and seeing what comes of it. We're on episode 9 of the show. We still got a lot more. I promised myself a full year of making these videos, of being consistent, and I'm going to keep the promises that I made to myself before the year even started, right? And now, as I'm doing it, the self-belief is, it's still, a little shaky, but the confidence is starting to grow. I'm starting to develop my own systems and my own workflow and how it feels to just constantly put yourself out there. The work always comes before the belief. We'll check back in at the end of the year and see how I feel, right? But I guarantee that the confidence, the way that I speak in the mic, the way that I converse with people once I start bringing guests on the show, the way the videos are even edited, the lighting, the audio, all of that is going to get dialed in because as time goes on, I will only get better. The work comes before the belief. The more you do something, the more confident you get. Do it despite the doubt. Do it despite the fear. Do it afraid. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like, comment, share it with your friends and family, and I will definitely see y'all in the next one. Remember, the genius in me sees the genius in you, and I'm always, always rooting for you. Peace.